Good evening and welcome. For decades, we've watched the Cassidines turn Wyndemere into a fortress of family secrets, hidden heirs, and tragic love stories. We thought we had seen it all. We thought those stone walls had crumbled enough ghosts to fill 1,000 Gothic novels. But tonight, we are not talking about the ghost of Mikos or the schemes of Stavros. We are talking about something far more immediate. Something that has left even the most stoic residents of Port Charles looking over their shoulders in disbelief. It started with a scream, not the dramatic, theatrical scream of a daytime drama cliffhanger, but a raw, primal shriek of horror that echoed through the corridors of Wyndemere and straight into the heart of our community. Jens Sidwell, the charmingly ruthless newcomer who swept into town with the polish of a businessman and the cold heart of an assassin, has done the unthinkable. He has turned Laura Collins's moment of triumph into a nightmare. And he left a body in his wake that has shattered the fragile peace of Port Charles. Today, we are going to unpack the shocking appearance of a dead body that has tied Sidwell to Windemere's darkest tower. We'll look at the chilling events leading up to the murder, the unbelievable way the body was discovered, and why this single act of violence has changed the game for Sonny, Laura, and everyone caught in Sidwell's web. Because in Port Charles, the dead don't just rest in peace. They wade in trunks, they float in rivers, and they expose the truth when we least expect it. But before we get to the body in the trunk, we have to understand the devil who pulled the trigger. Let's set the stage for the unthinkable. When Jens Sidwell first arrived in Port Charles, many of us dismissed him as another wealthy opportunist looking to buy up waterfront property. He was smooth, he was witty, and he had that dangerous glint in his eye that reminded us of a bygone era of villains, the kind who could charm you at a dinner party and ruin you before dessert. But unlike the Cassidines, whose motives were always tangled in family legacy and world domination, Sidwell's goals are brutally simple: control. And there is no better fortress for a man seeking control than Wyndemere. He moved into that mansion not just as a guest, but as a conqueror. He brought with him Pascal, yes, that Pascal, the man who tortured Jocelyn Jacks in Croatia. Pascal is now masquerading as a butler, a wolf in sheep's clothing serving tea while hiding unspeakable secrets. Sidwell transformed the North Tower, the very same tower where Esme was once held captive, into his private domain. A domain where, as we later learned, Professor Henry Dalton was conducting research connected to the late great villain Cesar Faison's final project. Sidwell told Pascal to prepare the North Tower for Marco Rios and Lucas Jones, but with a terrifying warning. Ensure Lucas doesn't uncover their work, or he'd have to be dealt with. Those words, dealt with, hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Lucas, poor, unsuspecting Lucas, moved in with the man he loved, completely oblivious that he was sleeping steps away from a crime scene waiting to happen. You see, Sidwell isn't just hiding furniture in that tower. He's hiding the evidence of a conspiracy that goes back decades. And when Professor Dalton started getting nervous, when he started talking too much about the experiments, about the dogs, about the screams, Sidwell knew he had a leak. And Jens Sidwell doesn't patch leaks, he eliminates the source. And eliminate he did, but the way he did it, it wasn't just murder. It was a message. Picture the scene inside Wyndemere. Britt Westbourne, already traumatized by her history with Pascal and Faison's project, is trying to hold herself together. Professor Dalton is there, perhaps growing paranoid, perhaps threatening to expose what he knows about Sidwell's operation. And then, in a flash of cold, calculated violence, Sidwell pulls a gun. He doesn't hesitate. He doesn't negotiate. He shoots Dalton straight through the heart. The man hit the floor before he even knew he was dead. Britt, standing there, watching the life drain out of Dalton, is frozen in terror. She demands to know why. Why would Sidwell do this in cold blood in his own home? And Sidwell's response is the stuff of nightmares. He calmly explains that this is what happens to people who betray him. He looks at Britt and suggests that this be a lesson to her, that if she becomes more trouble than she's worth, the same fate awaits. But here's where the story takes an even darker turn. Pascal arrives on the scene, not as a frantic cleaner-upper, but as a man picking up his dry cleaning. He is unfazed, he is calm, and he delivers a chilling warning to Britt. This is her second chance. She won't be given a third. Britt is escorted home, screaming into her pillow, haunted by the image of Dalton's body. For a moment, we think Sidwell will simply dispose of the body in the usual mob fashion, a river, a dumpster, an unmarked grave. But Sidwell is a showman. He is a psychological warrior. He knows that in Port Charles, hiding a body isn't enough. You have to make the discovery count. And it counted, because the person who found that body was the last person in the world who deserved such a horror. Laura Collins had just won the election. After a brutal campaign against Ezra Boyle, after fighting for the soul of Port Charles, she had emerged victorious. She was driving home, calling her husband Kevin, leaving him a message about her win, wishing he were there to celebrate with her. It should have been a night of joy, a night of relief. But as she drove, her car began to jolt. A flat tire, a simple, frustrating end to a perfect evening. She pulled over to the side of the road, the kind of dark, deserted stretch that every woman dreads. She got out, inspected the tire, and found a screw lodged in it. Annoyed, she went to the trunk to get flares. She popped the trunk, and the world stopped. There, curled in the cramped space, was the body of Professor Henry Dalton, his skin already bluing, his eyes staring at nothing. Laura Collins, the matriarch of Port Charles, the woman who has faced down villains, mobsters, and the supernatural, let out a scream that pierced the night. This was not just a discovery, this was a targeted attack. Sidwell didn't just kill Dalton, he gifted his corpse to Laura. He wanted her to find it. He wanted to shatter her sense of safety. He wanted her to know that no victory celebration is safe from his reach. Imagine the violation, opening your own trunk, the most mundane part of your car, and finding a murdered man. It was a message from Sidwell to the mayor. I owned this town, not you. In her moment of utter devastation, she did what she has always done in her darkest hours. She called Sonny. When Laura called Sonny Cornicus, she was trembling. She had just found a dead body in her trunk. Her first instinct, of course, was to call the police. But Sonny, ever the pragmatist, understood the stakes. If Laura called the police, the media would descend. Her victory would be overshadowed by scandal. Sidwell's plan to frame her, or at least implicate her, would work perfectly. Sonny did what Sonny does. He called Jason. And together they arrived on that dark roadside to handle the unthinkable. Jason, the master of discreet disposal, looked at the body of Professor Dalton and knew exactly what to do. They removed the corpse, cleaned up any evidence, and erased Laura's connection to the murder. For a moment, it seemed like they had outsmarted Sidwell. The body was gone. Laura was safe. The scandal averted. But Sidwell is not a man who leaves loose ends. He is a man who photographs loose ends. Because while Jason and Sonny were busy disposing of the evidence, Sidwell's people were watching, and they were photographing. Sidwell now had images of Laura and Sonny standing over a dead body. He had the ultimate leverage. He had the power to destroy the mayor and the mob king in one fell swoop. That's when the game changed from murder mystery to outright blackmail. Sidwell didn't just want to scare Laura, he wanted something she could give him. Imagine the scene. Laura Collins, the woman who has dedicated her life to cleaning up Port Charles, is sitting across from a man who just murdered someone and stuffed them in her car. And that man, Jen Sidwell, slides a photograph across the table. It's grainy but unmistakable. Laura and Sonny caught in the headlights, standing over Dalton. Sidwell doesn't ask for money. He doesn't ask for power in the traditional sense. He asks for something far more specific. Sonny's Piers. The waterfront property that Sonny controls, the lifeblood of his shipping operation, the very symbol of his empire. Sidwell wants Sonny to surrender his territory, to hand over his territory in exchange for Laura's freedom. This is the moment where Sonny Cornicus, the man who has never bowed to anyone, is forced to his knees. He can't let Laura go down for a murder she didn't commit. He can't let Sidwell destroy the mayor's reputation. So he agrees. He gives up the Piers. It is a seismic shift in the power dynamics of Port Charles. Sidwell, in one masterful stroke, has eliminated a rival, terrorized the mayor, and acquired a strategic asset without firing another shot. But as we know, in Port Charles, no victory is ever clean, and no villain is ever alone. There's